You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we have two huge items on the agenda. First, and most importantly, England beat Ireland by 10 wickets. Wonderful performance by the English boys at Cricket's HQ, Lords. And then second, and much less important, I think I would say, the World Test Championship final between a team called India and a team called Australia.
Never heard of
I'm
him.
Jack Hope. Yeah, exactly. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Max Rowe-brown. How you doing, Max? Did you have a good weekend?
Hello. Yeah, very good. Very well, thank you. I did. I played cricket. I bottled a century. Is what happened.
Oh, let's talk me through that. Because let's pointlessly navel gaze instead of talking about the World Test Championship final. I think that's definitely the way we should start. Yeah. What happened?
Well, we were chasing 229 to win, and that bit was pretty easy, pretty much in the bag. It was a reasonably nice deck. I think the other team were missing a few players, so once we got past their openers in the first change, the bowling got substantially easier. Not that we were struggling with the openers. We were well ahead of the game. It was easy, but I was in good nick. I felt as good as I've ever felt. Certainly in some time, and it was one of those days where you're like, if today's going to be the day you're going to get a ton and you don't get it, it's never going to happen. If you don't get it today, it's not happening. Unfortunately, two things happened. Firstly, they basically just started trying random people who'd come along to play to bowl for them. One of them started with a ball that he bounced at his toes and then rolled towards off the strip, and was a no ball. Then there was a beamer, no ball, and the over took about 5 minutes. So that was one. After he'd done, they brought someone else on whose trick was also either a beamer or a bouncer that ended up bouncing over your head. And at this point, I'm worrying now because I don't count my runs. I'm worrying. We've got 20. We need 20 odds to close the game out. I don't know what I'm on. Are we going to run out of runs? Are we going to run out of time? What am I going to do? So I'm on strike to one of these declaration bowlers, as I described them, and I've chased a cut shot to a ball that has bounced above my head and succeeded only in hitting it straight to point. And it turns out I was on 93, and I could have just tapped it around for another couple of minutes, and it would have been a jug for me. But no, I let greed get the better of me, Jack. So let that be a lesson to you, dear
listener.
A
shocker. There's a couple of observations from that story. One, nobody listening is going to have even a remotely high opinion of your cricketing ability after that story. You've completely undermined any theoretical talent, mental talent that people had reserved for you. Two, definitely bowled.
Yeah,
definitely bowled. I can say that as an expert in these things. Never been out in the 90s.
No, I've now got a 96 not out because we did run out of time, and a 93. So I'm going to try and complete every number in the 90s before I hit the magic.
Do you know what would have helped if you'd gone to seriouscricket.co.uk and bought a really good bat, and then you'd have hit the ball over point for 4, and you'd have been 97. So that's what you should do. And if you're listening, you should also go to seriouscricket.co.uk. Use the code TCP10 for 10% off, and cash in, fill your boots, as Max, did. You did. Boots were filled.
They were. I mean, you shouldn't be disappointed with 93.
They just did not overflow, which is what you'd have liked. Right, Max. We're going to do the show in 2 parts. We're going to start with the cricket that has been, and then we're going to talk about the cricket that will be. So we'll start with England v Ireland. Let's get right into the action, Max. What happened on 3 sunny days at Lords?
Well, home of cricket. It's a big occasion, isn't it? Home of cricket, a massive test match, and you put out your best side for such a big occasion, or so you'd think. But no, not necessarily the case. But it was Ireland, and they were playing England, and the one chance they possibly had of maybe making a fist of it would be if they won the toss, got some good overhead conditions, and decided to bowl first. That didn't happen. England won the toss, got some decent overhead conditions, bowled first, and knocked Ireland over for 172, and then they went out to bat like a bunch of overly competitive dads playing their 6-year-old kids in the garden and absolutely piled on the runs, spanked Ireland to all parts. 205 for Ollie Pope, the fastest double century in England ever. Better than Dodd Bradburn, Ollie Pope. Better than Dodd Bradburn. That's facts. Pure facts.
Yep, can't dispute it.
Declared with a lead of 350. Ireland did manage to score more than 350. They put in a good fight in the second innings and made England come out and get back again, which is probably about as good as they could have hoped for in the situation. And then Zach Crawley very greedily decided he was going to score all 12 of them on his own, and it was a 10-wicket win. But yeah, it was a bit of a procession, wasn't it? But how was your day at the test? Were you there for day one or day two?
I was there for day one. I think which I would say was the best day to be there. It was quite clear, I think, early on that England substantially better than Ireland. And as you said, if there was going to be if there's going to be anything at all in the way of jeopardy from an England point of view, it was going to come by way of early wickets when it was actually quite difficult to bat on the first morning. Didn't happen. England rolled them. It was quite good from a spectator point of view. A nice steady diet of wickets through to just after tea. And then we got 2 hours of Ben Duckett and Crawley and a little bit of Pope knocking the ball around, basically. I think what struck me about it really was kind of the gulf, the gulf that existed between Ireland's bowlers and England's batters.
Yeah.
The Irish batters did all right, I would say. I would say pass marks. You know, there's a talent difference there, but I think 172 is not the worst ever performance, or the worst performance you will ever see on day one at Lords. Quite often those pitches are juicy and they get better on day two, especially if you get a bit of cloud. It can be difficult to bat, and they did all right. I was really impressed with McCollum. I thought Curtis Campher batted well in the first innings as well. And they were up against Stuart Broad, who, you know, was pretty good and had decent rhythm. So I think that was fine. But when it came to the batting, it was just England's batting, Ireland's bowling. It was just a bit. I think, to be brutally honest, it was just a little bit boring. There was nothing really in the way of risk in the way that England went about that. When we look at the score, for crying out loud, it's 524 for 4. I played cricket with Ross on Saturday and he went on Friday, and I think he said Pope's double century was the easiest double century he'd ever seen. I don't know how many double centuries he's seen. Like, it's still a good score. I mean, I don't want to.
I think he's seen Steve Smith hit one, hasn't he?
It's a double ton against a professional cricket team. That takes some doing. You need a base level of talent. But Ross was right. Like the way England went about scoring their runs, they just didn't even push it. They were like, we're just going to score at 6.5 and over. And do this for how long? 80 overs, 90 overs, just like, well, just over a day's worth of play, basically. I think they batted for in total. So yeah, I don't think we learned really anything. I'm sure it felt good if you're an England player to get some wickets. Nice for Josh Tong, or Tongue rather. It was Tongue, wasn't it? Yeah,
apparently.
And I think as well, credit should go to the lower order Ireland players in the second innings for getting a bunch of runs. And actually, to be fair, maybe to give a little bit of fairness to Ireland's bowlers, you did see when Mark Adair and Andy McBride were knocking the ball around themselves with relative ease against England, that it wasn't the world's trickiest place to bat. And if you're coming into that surface, you know, armed with nothing particularly threatening, then you can see how it could go wrong. Because when the ball flattened out for England, or when the ball stopped moving for England,
pretty much Mark Adair is the only one who pushes it above 80, isn't he? In that attack. And yeah, on a flat Lord's deck in the sun, it's not gonna. Well, not that the Lord's deck is ever flat, but it's on a giant slope. But that aside, it's not going to get you very far. And
what did you make of it from not live at Lord's?
Yeah, well, I watched a fair amount of it, and I think my yeah, my very, very similar thoughts, really, but slightly boringly. But I think it's a fair, you've given a fair assessment of what it was. I mean, the bowling really was where the golfing class was. I was quite impressed with Ireland's batting when they got going. We've seen they've had a few series recently, haven't they, in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, where they put on some big scores and they've done well. They and I think did both openers get 100 against Essex in the warm-up game as well in their second innings there. So I mean, there's obviously they've got some good players, but I mean, obviously the glaring absence from the bowling attack is Josh Little, because they're resting him after his stint in the IPL, which is entirely reasonable, whatever you make of their sort of what they put out in the comms wise in terms of the World Cup and that qualification being more important than a one-off test against Lords. You do have to manage people's workloads, and Josh Little coming straight over from the IPL final to go and play a test match and bowl 20 overs in a day instead of bowling 4 is gonna probably be a bit too much. So you can entirely understand him not playing, but that robbed them of pretty much all the potency they had in that lineup. So that's not ideal, is it?
It is. I think it's a little bit. I've always felt it seems a little bit unusual to me as well that you've got a smaller team where the batting is actually probably test match quality.
Yeah,
not high level test match quality, but I'd maybe take this. I'd maybe take this Ireland batting lineup over the West Indies, for example. Like I think there's. I was genuinely impressed with Tector and Tucker. We know Paul Sterling's a decent player. Balbirnie is a 95 away in Sri Lanka. That's a decent knock. He didn't cover himself in glory at Lords, but looked fine. And McCollum as well in both innings didn't look too troubled opening the batting. Obviously sprained his ankle badly, didn't he? And retired hurt in the second innings, but I think looked decent. And then down the order they had some runs as well, but nothing really to write home about with the ball. And I think that was their problem really in Sri Lanka too, wasn't it? They got that in that second test, they got that mammoth score, but they just could not put Sri Lanka under any pressure with the ball. And then they ended up losing because they had to bat last. It was sort of similar here. There wasn't even a way they could dry up the runs. And I think it's one of the hardest tasks, to be honest, bowling to England on a flat pitch. And I think people will be surprised how effective that is against Australia later in the summer. I don't expect it to go the same way. I will say that I think Australia will bowl England out and they will take wickets and they'll find ways of staying in test matches where it's sort of beyond Ireland, it's beyond their skill level. But England are going to score 400 in a day against Australia at some point, and that is not normal behaviour in Test cricket. And Australia are going to have to respond to that. They can't just pretend. They can't just pretend that England aren't going to play like this, which is sort of the present situation. Is that you won't be able to do this against Cummins.
Yeah, I think every time England take this to a new team, that is the base level assumption, isn't it? Like, okay, fine. It's like your list of caveats, isn't it? It's your list of baseball caveats. Like, fine, okay, but can they go and do it in Pakistan? Oh, can they go and do it against New Zealand? But those pitches were juicy or those pitches were flat. Can they? So I quite like that. It's like it's almost like a video game, and you're taking it level by level, and you're trying to reach the next.
Well, yeah,
boss.
you are. I mean, I think we knew that England would do this to Ireland, and I think the score that England ended up with 524, declared off 82 overs. It's impressive because of how quickly they've scored. That's insane what they've done there. No other test team in the world would have
trying as well.
It's the other thing to say, and to be really clear about, no other test team in the world would have done this. Like, that is not how anybody else approaches this match. They score at 4.5 and over, maybe even 5 and over. England are scoring a run and a half and over quicker. They're eliminating the opposition's chance of winning the match in less than a day's play, effectively. That's pretty brutal, and England will try and do that, exactly that, to basically every team they play at the moment, unless the pitch ends up particularly spicy. I don't know if it will. What's really interesting? What's really interesting, I thought, and if you want to talk about what we've learned from England's batting, maybe the only thing that, or maybe I don't know if we learned it. I think we knew this already, but this was maybe the starkest example of England battering a team off of a good length. Like it just became impossible to bowl line and length. And I was doing a little bit of guerrilla cricket with some of the people who support Ireland, follow Irish cricket, and their takeaway was that Ireland bowled really badly, and they just couldn't hit a line and length. And the reason for that, and this I thought was very stark in this game, and showed up as maybe lack of experience or lack of plan B. England were able to do that, and Ireland melted. England will try and do this though against every team they play. Like they will try and stop you bowling what is considered to be the ideal Test match line and length, and that as a plan, I don't think anybody has come up with a reasonable response to. The team that came closest was South Africa, probably at home.
Which was just bowl really fast.
Well, yeah, bowl really fast, but also like the skill level of the South African attack is such that you can try and hit them off a good length, but they can kind of also back themselves either through the pace of Nortje or the skill of Rabada to still take wickets, still keep themselves in the match, or the skill of Janssen to still pose a threat. Now, maybe Australia will be able to do that, and but this was a warm-up test for England for the Ashes, and so I think we can now start talking about what this means beyond that, and we need to talk about Leach as well, which is actually probably the most significant things that happens in the entire match. I don't know over 5 series whether it will be a viable option for Australia to just back themselves to carry on bowling line and length. I think they will over 5 matches meet the same fate as South Africa if their plan is to just stick to line and length. I think England will score highly enough in those across those 10 innings. They'll have 7 good ones, and Australia will lose the series. You saw from Ireland what definitely not to do, just sort of spray it around. You need another plan. I don't know what it is. Bowl really short, bowl just Yorkers. I'm not sure. Like we got more evidence of what not to do basically here. But England are coming with a crystal clear game plan about what they need to do, with players who are now, sure of their positions in the team, players who are playing well, scoring lots of runs. I think they will be added to the list of Bazball caveats. Just Ireland. Flat pitch, just Ireland.
I think that's fair, to be honest, because I wouldn't even class this as. I'm not sure I'd even class this as Bazball necessarily.
No, but like
this was just a case of asserting dominance.
What it was, but like I say, I don't think there's another team that do it this way. I think pretty much every other team in the world, they cash in. They probably do get 524 declared. That's probably where this game ends up against the top 5 Test teams in the world. But it happens over 150 overs or 130 overs. England have done it. They 2.4 overs of the new ball took England to. I don't even know if they took the new ball, to be honest. I was playing cricket at this point, but I saw enough to be able to tell you for sure that England are good at cricket.
Yeah. Well, that's a good take home. I mean, you mentioned a little bit ago Ireland have got a decent batting lineup, but the bowling's not all that. Do you think that is a symptom of the fact that they basically just don't play red ball cricket at the moment?
I'm not really sure. I always think that it is easier to have a bowling lineup because there are elements of bowling that are much more on the athletic end of the spectrum than the cricketing skill end of the spectrum, if you like.
But the things you're trying to do between white ball and red ball cricket are different, aren't they? Like the lengths you're trying to hit, the skills you're trying to employ. Whereas when you're batting, ultimately it is, you might be dealing with a bit of swing or a bit of nip more so than normal, but ultimately it is a case of hit the ball / don't get out to a degree.
I think and I haven't done a deep dive into this, but I think bowling skills are more transferable across the two. I think Ireland's basic problem was that everybody bowled 75 miles an hour, and nobody had any idea what to do once bowling line and length was not a viable tactic anymore. Now, there's not really a way to solve that. Like it's if that's just how you bowl, there's not a thing that you can't just bowl 90 miles an hour. Like that's not viable.
Yeah.
You can't learn to bowl. You can't learn to become a swing bowler midway through the match. So I think that's yeah. I mean, like I don't. I think there is a difference between being a good white ball batter and being a good red ball batter. I think bowling does transfer across a lot more, particularly if you're an opening bowler. If you are in a 50 over match, first 8 overs, 10 overs, you're trying to do what you would do in a test match. Like the plan is, generally speaking, nick them off at first slip. Like it's that's why they put the fielders there. It's quite clear that's the bit of the game that transfers best. And I think for spinners as well, there are elements that are the same. Whereas mainly in batting between test matches and white ball cricket, you're not trying to do that. England are testing that, aren't they? Like, England basically, they bat in test matches like they would bat between overs 10 and 40 in a ODI.
Yeah.
And
which is a really interesting way of looking at it when you sort of think about the ball going a bit old and doing less and maybe being more like a white ball if a bit softer.
Perhaps. Yeah. Right, let's round this off. We should probably talk Jack Leach in England corner. Final thing, I would say people really went for Ireland. Well, it's a disgrace. Why even bother doing this? I just think sometimes in sport, and Test match cricket really, it stretches this. It's a bit like tennis, The 100th seed at Roland Garros has got no chance.
Well, exactly, yeah. It's like it's United playing Accrington Stanley in the FA Cup.
The 12th seed. The 12th seed's got no. Didn't he just in the tennis? Alcaraz destroyed the 16th best player. It was humiliated him, and he'll probably do it to the 4th best player in the semi-final. Like there's an extremely stark difference between being 100 out of 100 or something and 97 out of 100 or something in terms of what the results you can hope to get. And I think that's sort of.
And how long have they been playing tests? Like 5 years?
I think Ireland applied themselves pretty well given the skill gap. I'd genuinely say, but bowling a 4 out of 10, batting an 8 out of 10. I think in terms of what you could have expected, and with the batting, England have done this to every single team they have played for a year. They destroyed New Zealand last year. They destroyed India. India at Edgbaston, Bairstow was making Siraj look like a village cricketer. It was men against boys. India had basically the same thing. Like India couldn't get through to the new ball because Root and Bairstow it was too easy for them. There's no shame, really, I think, if you're Irish in what happened here. Like it's a good team playing a type of cricket people aren't prepared for in the world, and nobody has found a solution to yet. And you ran into some conditions that made that type of cricket particularly effective in terms of weather and pitch, and you got the you got the result you could expect. But I don't think it was necessarily because Ireland are terrible at cricket. I think there's a lot of factors floating around. Jack Leach is out, Max.
Yes, Jack Leach has joined the uncountable list of England bowlers who've had a stress fracture in the last 3 years. I don't know what they're putting in their tea, but this one he's not even a fast bowler. How has this happened? How have you managed to get your spinner a stress fracture? after all of the great narrative about how Stokes is using Jack Leach more, maybe he's over bowled him and he's broken him like Joe Root did to Jofra Archer, and it's all his fault. But it does cause a bit of a problem, doesn't it? Because England's plan obviously is to have Jack Leach as the lead spinner. So where are they going to go for the Ashes? Obviously, in Pakistan, it was Will Jacks and Rayan Ahmed who were over there as well. Do you think it'll be one of them?
Right. So I think there's a bunch of questions here, aren't there? Like in terms of what you do. My gut instinct, Max, before we even talk about who could come in, or like which spinner will come in. My gut instinct is that England will go with four seamers and pick Wokes.
Yeah.
I think it's a big risk, and we kind of saw in the last Ashes what Steve Smith did to an attack that's going to end up looking pretty similar, I think, to that series. I think then they bring Leach in after a couple of matches to in that series to try and deal with Smith. I think I don't think Leach played the whole of that series.
We did some weird stuff in that series.
My gut instinct is that they will just say, well, we're going to have to double down and bowl and play with a bunch of seamers, and maybe Root will bowl a bit more.
Well, so there's
a few left-handers, aren't there?
Yeah, well,
around.
That's it. They've got five, is it, in the top nine? Both the openers, Head, Carey, and Stark, all lefties.
Yeah.
So, I mean, off spin's a viable option, and Joe Root's not a bad, and then better that means, than part-time.
And then that means you have Anderson, Broad, Wood, and Wokes as your bowling attack.
Not all the time.
Well, actually, you probably have Robinson for any one of those three, or four rather. I think he's England's best bowler, and will I think that does make it a bit one-dimensional, especially when you throw in Stokes as the fifth seamer. But I do also think that you'll probably get more out of that attack overall. It might be quite marginal than bringing someone in. I can give you a list of names, Max. So who did you throw at me? You said Rayan Ahmed and Will Jacks.
Because they were the last two used, weren't they? But neither feels right to me.
No, so I think Will Jacks,
two off spinners doesn't make any sense in the first place.
Will Jacks is a bit too much like Joe Root, I think, to bother with. I think he's a better bowler, but not that much better. Yeah. And then you're picking him for his batting at number 8 or 9. Might not be able to bowl him that much because I think he could leak runs, particularly if England are playing on flat pitches. So I'd say unlikely. Rayan Ahmed, 18 years old. I think he's made debuts in all 3 formats, hasn't he, over the last year? So they definitely think of him as someone for the future. That does have a Bazball vibe to it. I will say that. Now, I don't think he's been playing every match or bowling in every. I think he's played every match, but hasn't actually been bowling all the time for Leicestershire.
Yeah, well, it's early in the season.
Yeah, it is. But if he were a test quality spinner, you'd have thought he'd have turned his arm over a bit. And I mean a test quality spinner in England. I think in Pakistan, maybe in India next year, makes a bit more sense. You're going to get a little bit more out of the pitch. And if you're bowling 2 wicket balls and over, you can kind of throw in a 4 ball. Like if if you end up averaging 20 and you go at 4.5 and over, it's not the end of the world. That type of bowler in England gets destroyed. Yeah, like it's a no-go. Yeah, I would say Will Jacks, 1 out of 10 chance of him playing. Rayan Ahmed, I would say a 4 out of 10 chance. Right. 4 out of 10. Then there are 3 other names, Max, and I'll let you give your judgment on these. Moeen Ali, Adil Rashid, Liam Dawson.
Oh, okay.
3 more players.
Yeah,
who could come in, and then I'm going to throw a wild card in after that.
Right. I think I can't see Moeen Ali for similar reasons to Will Jacks, and obviously there's the fact that I don't think he necessarily want to do it anymore. Adil Rashid I don't think his shoulder can cope and he's white ball only. So I think both of those are very unlikely. I would say Liam Dawson is the most likely of them to end up in the side. He can bat a bit. It's left arm spin. It's the same option. So I reckon if they're going to go with anyone, Liam Dawson is probably the one. And I think that's probably what I thought originally. But I'm looking forward to hearing a wild card. Is it Parky?
No, right. Well, so right,
Because they obviously hate him, so it won't be him.
If I was going to go through them all, I'd say Mo and Ali 4 out of 10. I think there's a decent chance they ask him. They obviously like him, and he's taken quite a lot of test wickets. He's played 64 tests. So it's decent. I don't know if he fancies it, and so I think that's the barrier there. Adil Rashid shoulder, I think 2 out of 10.
Yeah,
maybe less, maybe also a 1. Dawson,
6.
It's a little bit more like for like. I'd say the only has he? I think he's played test matches, hasn't he? As well, Dawson. So it's not like a complete newbie, but you might say that his game has drifted away from first class cricket and red ball recently. So I don't think he'd be completely like for like. Like Jack Leach is a specialist red ball spinner, so maybe I think 6.
He's played 3 tests and average just 21, mate. He's
okay. Well,
tailor-made.
There we go. Let's bring him in. So Matt Parkinson, I suppose, is another wild card.
Oh no, that's batting. He averages 42 with the ball.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Parkinson's another wild card. I really don't think. I think everyone's just soured on him. He, bowls too slowly or whatever. I think he actually hasn't been playing county cricket, so I think he'd be a real surprise. Maybe not a 0, but probably in the 1 category.
0.5.
I was going to say Liam Livingstone.
Oh yeah, because he was in the squad and then got injured. So that would be interesting. But I don't know. Probably a worse bowler than Will Jacks.
Yeah, but I feel like the vibes with Livingstone,
pure vibes, right? He's just going to stand there and pop them into the.
I just feel like he'd scare Australia a little bit from the batting point of view, and the aura might be enough to. I mean, I don't really think that.
I'd love to see it.
I think that he's the sort of person that they might go for in a pinch. Because he's not. I mean, he can bowl off spin and he can bowl leg spin. He's really more of a leg spinner, you'd say. Well, he's more of a batter. You would say
if you're going to pick one.
But if you want somebody, if you're thinking Liam Dawson isn't enough of a specialist, and we don't want another off spinner, and Rayan Ahmed is maybe a little bit inexperienced and we slightly unquantified with the bat. Liam Livingstone, you're definitely going to get some batting. You're definitely going to get a little bit of buzz. And the combo of leg spin, off spin, it might work. I think I would have him as a 2, but I think he's more likely than Jax.
Right.
I in all seriousness now, I think at least for the first test, and it's the second test at Lords, 4 seamers.
Yeah.
I think at Edgbaston, I can really see 4 seamers, and I'll probably do that.
Maybe Old Trafford and the Oval would be.
Yeah, possibly. Right, Max, anything else on England?
No, I think that's it for me.
Cool. It was a long segment. Cool. Bye, everyone. We'll be back in a minute.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.